What is happening, Bayhive and news junkies? Get ready for a rapid-fire download of the stories that are absolutely dominating the conversation. The news cycle is moving at lightning speed, and if you're not plugged in, you're missing out. Today, we've got the inside scoop on some major takes that are shaking up the industry. We're diving deep into what one prominent voice is saying about business and comedy, unpacking some significant industry decisions that could change everything, and exploring the latest developments that have everyone talking. You do not want to miss this. Let's get into it. First up, we're breaking down a fiery commentary from a beloved comedian that's setting the internet ablaze. He's calling out major platforms and some of the biggest names in the game, dissecting how certain business practices are shaping the landscape of entertainment and commentary. This is the kind of insight that cuts through the noise. Then, we're shifting gears to explore a decision that's sparking widespread debate, revealing potentially far-reaching implications for how content is created and distributed. This story has layers, and we're peeling them back for you. Stick around because you absolutely need to know this. And finally, we're looking at another sharp critique that's got everyone weighing in. This is where the real conversation happens. So buckle up, stay locked in, and make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash that like, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a beat. We've got it all right here on the Beyonce Beat. Fascism is good for business, a comedian's fiery take on industry giants. This story delves into a candid and provocative critique from a well-known comedian and podcaster, Marc Maron, who has recently unleashed a scathing assessment of major players in the entertainment industry, specifically targeting Netflix and fellow comedian Bill Maher. Maron's remarks, made during an interview on the Pod Saves America podcast, paint a stark picture of how he believes business interests are overriding artistic integrity and ethical considerations, particularly in relation to controversial content and the pursuit of relevance. Maron's central assertion is that fascism is good for business, a statement he elaborates on by pointing to Netflix's handling of comedian Dave Chappelle's specials. He argues that the streaming giant's decision to continue airing Chappelle's work, despite significant backlash from the trans community regarding jokes made in The Closer, demonstrates a clear prioritization of profit over social responsibility. Maron suggests that Netflix analyzed the situation and concluded that the financial impact of alienating the trans community would be negligible, leading them to cut him loose and stand by Chappelle. He provocatively likens this to how fascism operates in business, where marketability and audience acquisition, even through controversial means, take precedence. Maron elaborates on this by noting that while Netflix may offer a diverse range of content, including LGBTQ+ programming, the big deals and continued airtime often go to content that appeals to a broader, more easily swayed audience, effectively throwing a bone to smaller communities while catering to the majority. Beyond Netflix and Chappelle, Maron also turned his attention to veteran comedian and talk show host Bill Maher. Maron expressed a strong aversion to Maher's current approach, stating, "I can't do it." He cited Maher's tone and what he perceives as a desperate chasing of relevance as the primary issues. Maron believes this pursuit of staying in the public conversation has led Maher to adopt a stance that feels insincere and driven by a need to remain current, potentially at the expense of genuine conviction. He reflects on his past appearances on Maher's shows, acknowledging a historical connection, but ultimately finding Maher's current trajectory problematic. Maron's critique extends to a broader observation about older comedians, suggesting that this desperate chasing of relevance is a common pitfall that can undermine the authenticity of their work and make their entire endeavor feel hollow. Maron's commentary has resonated widely, with many in the comedy and media spheres weighing in on his sharp criticisms. The implications for how streaming platforms handle controversial content and the pressure on comedians to remain relevant in a rapidly changing cultural landscape are significant points of discussion. His blunt assessment challenges the status quo and raises questions about the ethical responsibilities of major media companies and the integrity of public discourse within comedy. But what does this mean for the future of comedy and the platforms that host it. Next, we're diving into a major industry decision that's causing waves and could redefine how we consume content. Netflix's Fascism for Business strategy and the Chappelle controversy. This report examines comedian Marc Maron's sharp condemnation of Netflix's business practices, particularly in light of their continued support for Dave Chappelle's comedy specials. Maron's assertion that fascism is good for business serves as the central thesis, arguing that Netflix prioritizes algorithmic appeal and broad marketability over ethical considerations, especially concerning content that has drawn criticism for its impact on marginalized communities. Maron, speaking on Pod Save America, pointed to Netflix's handling of the backlash against Dave Chappelle's 2021 special, The Closer, as a prime example. He contends that after facing protests and a walkout from Netflix employees, the company ultimately determined that the trans community's opposition would not significantly harm its bottom line. This, in Maron's view, is a clear indication of a business model that embraces what he terms fascism, a system where market forces and the pursuit of profit dictate content decisions, even at the expense of inclusivity or social responsibility. He elaborates on this by suggesting that while Netflix may feature some LGBTQ+ content, the truly lucrative deals and sustained visibility are reserved for programming that caters to a larger, potentially less critical audience. This strategy, according to Maron, involves offering a bone to smaller demographic groups while doubling down on content that garners wider, albeit potentially more problematic, appeal. He even coined the term Reich flicks to underscore his critique of the platform's perceived ideological flexibility in the face of financial incentives. Furthermore, Maron extends his criticism to the broader landscape of contemporary comedy, noting what he calls tribalized comedy and singling out figures like Joe Rogan as influential arbiters of comedic taste. He questions the continued criticism of woke culture when, in his view, the political climate has shifted and anti-woke comedians should no longer claim victimhood. Maron highlights the real-world consequences faced by individuals in marginalized communities, suggesting that comedians who continue to attack woke ideas are ignoring the tangible harm being done. He also touches upon the ethical dilemmas faced by comedians who platform figures with controversial or extremist views, referencing his own jokes about potential podcast guests, including unflattering comparisons to historical figures, as a way to provoke thought on these issues. Maron's comments have ignited a significant conversation within the entertainment industry and among audiences about the responsibilities of streaming services and the ethical boundaries of comedy. The debate centers on whether platforms should prioritize artistic freedom above all else, or if they have a duty to consider the social impact of the content they distribute. The discussion also touches on the role of comedians in shaping public discourse, and the potential for comedy to be used as a tool for social commentary, or, conversely, for the normalization of harmful ideas. This intense scrutiny of Netflix's content strategy raises crucial questions about artistic freedom versus social responsibility. Get ready, because our next story dives into a major industry move that's already creating significant buzz and could reshape how we experience entertainment. Scorched Earth, Maron blasts Netflix, Chappelle, and Maher on fascism for business. This piece details comedian and podcast host Marc Maron's unvarnished and highly critical assessment of Netflix, Dave Chappelle, and Bill Maher, encapsulated by his provocative statement, "Fascism is good for business." Maron's remarks, delivered during an appearance on Pod Save America, offer a sharp critique of how major entertainment platforms and prominent comedians navigate controversial topics and the pursuit of cultural relevance. Maron's core argument posits that Netflix exemplifies a business model where profitability dictates content decisions, often at the expense of social conscience. He uses the controversy surrounding Dave Chappelle's specials, particularly The Closer, as a case study. Maron believes Netflix's decision to retain and promote Chappelle's work, despite widespread criticism from the trans community and internal employee dissent, demonstrates a calculated assessment that backlash would not impact their financial performance. He likens this approach to how fascism works in business, suggesting a pragmatic, profit-driven ideology that can quickly become Reichflicks by prioritizing audience algorithms and broad market appeal over the concerns of specific communities. Maron further illustrates this by noting that while Netflix may host diverse content, the most substantial deals and sustained visibility are typically afforded to programming that resonates with a larger, more generalized audience, effectively marginalizing or placating smaller, more vocal groups. In addition to his critique of Netflix and Chappelle, Maron also directed sharp criticism at fellow comedian Bill Maher. Maron expressed a strong personal aversion to Maher's current output, citing a problem with his tone and what he perceives as a desperate chasing of relevance. Maron suggests that this drive to remain in the public conversation has led Maher to compromise his approach, making his work feel increasingly desperate and less authentic. He reflects on past experiences guesting on Maher's shows, but finds it difficult to look past what he views as a performative need to stay current, even if it means adopting a particular stance or tone that feels disingenuous. This critique extends to a broader observation about boomers in comedy, implying a generational struggle with adapting to contemporary cultural nuances and the pressure to remain visible. Maron's outspoken commentary has generated considerable discussion about the responsibilities of media companies in managing controversial content and the ethical considerations for comedians engaging with sensitive social and political issues. His remarks challenge the notion of unfettered artistic expression when it intersects with potential harm and highlight the complex interplay between commerce, culture, and comedy. Maron's previous criticisms of comedians who host figures with extremist views further contextualize his stance, framing his current remarks as part of a larger concern about the normalization of harmful ideologies within the entertainment sphere. This powerful indictment of industry giants raises critical questions about artistic integrity and ethical responsibility in media. Prepare yourself, because the next update we have is a major industry development that's already sparking widespread debate and has significant implications for how content is created and consumed. Maron declares fascism is good for business over Netflix's Chappelle deal. This report focuses on comedian Marc Maron's pointed criticism of Netflix's decision-making process, particularly its continued partnership with Dave Chappelle, which he controversially frames as evidence that fascism is good for business. Maron articulated these views during a recent appearance on the Pod Save America podcast, offering a stark assessment of the streaming giant's priorities. Maron's central argument revolves around Netflix's handling of the public outcry following Dave Chappelle's 2021 special, The Closer. He asserts that Netflix, after facing significant backlash from the trans community and internal protests, ultimately concluded that this opposition would not adversely affect its financial performance. This, according to Maron, illustrates a business strategy that prioritizes marketability and profit, even if it means disregarding the concerns of marginalized groups. He likens this to the operational logic of fascism in a business context, where the pursuit of broad audience appeal and algorithmic success can override ethical considerations. Maron elaborates by suggesting that while Netflix may offer a diverse array of content, including programming that supports LGBTQ+ creators, the most substantial financial backing and widespread promotion are consistently directed towards content that can capture a larger market share. This, he implies, means that while smaller communities might receive some acknowledgement, the core business model relies on catering to the wider audience, even if it means alienating or marginalizing others. He even uses the term Reichflicks to emphasize his view on the platform's willingness to compromise its values for commercial gain. Expanding on his critique, Maron also voiced his strong disapproval of fellow comedian Bill Maher, citing a persistent problem with his tone and a perceived desperate chasing of relevance. Maron believes that Maher's efforts to remain a prominent voice in contemporary discourse have led him to adopt a style that feels inauthentic and driven by a need to stay current, making his overall work seem desperate. He reflects on his past interactions with Maher, but finds it difficult to overlook what he sees as this underlying motivation. Maron's commentary extends to a broader observation about older generations of comedians, suggesting that this struggle for relevance can often lead to a dilution of their artistic integrity. Maron's outspoken opinions have ignited a significant debate within the comedy and media industries regarding the ethical responsibilities of content creators and distributors. The discussion touches upon the complex relationship between artistic freedom, audience engagement, and corporate accountability, particularly in an era where streaming platforms wield immense influence over cultural narratives. His critique challenges the industry to consider the broader societal impact of the content it produces and promotes. This sharp commentary on industry practices raises crucial questions about artistic integrity and ethical responsibility. Stay tuned, because the next piece we're covering is a major development that's already causing significant debate and could reshape the landscape of how we experience content. So, what's the takeaway from today's news? We heard a comedian slamming Netflix and Bill Maher, calling out fascism for business. We also saw how Netflix's handling of Dave Chappelle's specials exemplifies this, prioritizing profit over community concerns. Plus, there's a deep dive into the motivations behind chasing relevance in comedy. Don't miss out on any of our updates. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that like button, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a moment. Follow us on all social media platforms for more exclusive content and behind-the-scenes action. We'll see you in the next one.